Hello and welcome to Intuitive Journey with Desiree. I'm Desiree Holmes, Scherini, your host. And today I am really happy to have Megan Edge joining me. And Megan is a healer and an intuitive and energy worker. And she's also the author and creator of the Hearts Journey, Healing Hearts Oracle Cards and Guidebook. And she's so much more. But I'm not going to try to read it all. Instead, I'm going to jump right in and say, welcome, Megan. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Desiree, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you. I am too.
Yeah.
And so I always like to start when I have a guest asking, how did you end up here? What was your path to, this, your life's journey to what you're doing right now?
Yes, so it actually started way back when I was a little girl. I was always the girl on the playground that was protecting the people from the bullies, or I was the one saving the kitty cats or the birds with broken wings, bringing home to my mother everything and everyone who needed help, and then watching as she would help them, whether it was my friends or it was the bird with the broken wing or the stray cat or whatever it was. And I learned from her an innate compassion and generosity, which is how she always lived her life. And that translated as I grew older into intuitively wanting to help others and intuitively understanding how I could help others, even without necessarily it being a conscious thing. And I got to a point as an adult where I realized that all those people who had been coming up to me at the bus stop or in the grocery line, or when I used to work as a bank person for a while. I was a teller, and then I became a um, oh my gosh, my brain. You call it investment. We can cut that part out. Investment advisor and all those things. And I found that so often people had a story they wanted to tell me. And at the end of them sharing the story, whatever it was that I had said in response to that shifted something in them, changed something for them. They had a new perspective that they hadn't previously considered. And it occurred to me as I was trying to figure out what do I want to be when I grow up, I could get paid
Yeah,
to be of service and do this work. And this could be my work in the world. This could be what I give back to the world, is holding that space for people's healing outside of mainstream psychology, psychiatry, and medicine.
a totally win-win.
It has certainly been for many, many of my clients, my family, my friends, and myself as well. Because what I have found and discovered over the years is that in pursuing things like herbalism or essential oils, spirituality, nature as a healing modality, all of these things, food as medicine, I feel empowered in that I have a relationship with my own health that I recognize is my responsibility and no one else's.
Hmm.
And that's different from the way that we are generally brought up in North America in terms of our relationship with our doctors, the medical system, our own health choices.
Right.
And it's become one of my missions to empower other people similarly, so that when they make a choice for themselves, health wise, whether it's mental health or physical health or spiritual health, they're doing it from a place of having as much information as possible so that it's a conscious choice that they're making, whatever that choice ends up being.
Yeah, and it's just so many people just say, well, because that's how it's done, or that's
Right.
I was told to, or that's how everybody I know does it. Um,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
so I think that is important to gather the information. And so some of the ways that you gathered information for yourself as far as building this career that you have, um,
Hmm.
looking at your website, and did you start when you did first start out? I'm curious about like how you layered on different things. So when
Yes.
you did first start out, what did you start with?
Well, interestingly, I started working with Doreen Virtue.
Oh, I love her. Yeah,
Some people may be familiar with her, yes, and
she's
some of the
kind of
choices that,
switched up a little bit here and there,
yes,
but the core of her, you know,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what happened is it's kind of an interesting, well, it is, I think, an interesting story. So I found myself in our local bookstore.
Hmm.
I found myself without my two children or my husband. Wasn't quite sure how that had happened, but somehow it did.
Yeah.
And there I was
You hadn't
looking.
run away from home or
No,
something. It was just
no,
a
I think
chance you were alone in a bookstore.
I think I was
Yeah.
probably doing chores and I just had 10 minutes and thought, oh, I haven't been in a bookstore where I'm looking at adult books for a long time. And
Okay.
it's always the
Yeah.
kids section, right?
Right.
So I went to the metaphysical section
Hmm.
and there were all the regular books that I was used to seeing on the shelves. And there was one that I hadn't seen before, which was called Healing with the Fairies
Uh-huh.
by Doreen Virtue, who I'd never heard of her before. And I grew up in a household with a mother who was very in touch with nature energies, nature essences. She
Hmm.
always talked about the fae, that
Right.
if you can see faces in the burls of wood or in patterns, that means you have the fae. It means you have the capacity to see beyond the veil and this sort of
Oh.
thing. So I grew up with that, but never in my experience had I seen in metaphysical writing or metaphysical teachings anything about fairies. Fairies was always relegated to the fantasy section.
Hmm.
So here was this book, and I looked at it, and as I'm looking at it, it falls off the shelf and
That's
lands in my hands. And I'm
oh,
thinking, okay, well, that's curious. I'm going
you
to
just
take this
pushed it off.
book home. I'm going to take this book home, and I'm going to see what this is all about. And I found it so fascinating, so different, so refreshing in that moment that I decided I want to work with this woman. I want to learn from her. I liked the way she was speaking for the most part. I liked her approach. I thought it was really fun and whimsical that it was the fairies, but also I thought this is this is tapping into a more ancient tradition
Mhm.
of spiritual belief that over the years has become diluted and saturated with the fantasy realm, which is a long way from where it originated from. Where we once had gods and goddesses of the forest and of the land, they now were being portrayed as little fairy creatures.
Mhm.
So I felt an affinity. And I ended up reading all of her books. I spent about a year taking as many metaphysical courses as I could in my own community. And as my family responsibilities would allow, I did EFT, which is the tapping. I
Right.
did past life studies. I did metaphysical studies. I studied the Cabal. I studied the tarot. I did all kinds of studies. And then a year later, I went down to Laguna Beach and I spent a week in an intensive week training with 144 other people to become an angel therapy practitioner, which is what Doreen Virtue was calling her work at the time and the people who went through her program. And it was life-changing. I met amazing people down there, and I just felt like I was speaking a language that was familiar to me
Mhm.
that I wasn't able to speak elsewhere in my life. And in fact, I told my family and friends that I was going down to Laguna Beach for a yoga retreat, which doesn't sound so out of the ordinary, except that I
Right.
had never done a yoga class in my entire life.
Yes, you're like, well, that's weird enough, but not so weird that they're going to say,
Yeah.
what? Right?
Yeah. And interestingly, not a single person said, really? You're going down for a yoga retreat? I didn't know you did yoga.
Yeah. Or I thought you'd be going for an angel therapy,
Well, no, because yeah, I was still in the psychic closet,
Yeah, I know. Isn't it funny how
right?
slowly we just kind of say, well, I kind of believe there's something to, and you look at them and think, have I scared them away? Or are
Yes.
they like, yeah, me too? Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly it. So when I came back from that experience, I did my practicum. I had to hold a number of different sessions and
Uh-huh.
hand in all of my reports and that sort of thing. And I received my certification. And I thought, right, I'm going to put out my shingle as a psychic healer. And that's what I did. I found a little office in a cute little part of our city and I hung out my shingle. And right away, people started coming to me, word of mouth,
That's
and the business
fantastic.
started to grow. And I was teaching right from the get-go, helping other people connect in with their intuition, with their own healing ability, with their health sovereignty, working with different intuitive tools like oracle cards and tarot and pendulum. And from there, like you say, it was layering another modality, another program. I did my Reiki levels all the way up to Master Reiki. I did my energy healing medicine practitioners program. I kept adding things, and each time I added something, I benefited from that training
Mhm.
in my own toolkit of the things that I know work well for healing trauma and pain and injury and all of those things, which I had many of in my life. And once I was able to apply those healing techniques to myself as the guinea pig, I
Mhm.
could then confidently say, I can help someone else with this modality. And I realized the more modalities that I had in my toolkit, the more ways I could help people. Because not everybody's going to resonate with Reiki or
Mhm.
resonate with energy healing or resonate with tarot cards or fairies or angels or whatever. But if I have enough different kinds of ways to help people access their own healing abilities, then I'm able to offer a really deep and transformative healing experience for people who are ready and willing to have that experience.
And I also think, even, I've kind of have a similar path to yours of just, finding things that to add on or have access to. But even if I don't directly use a technique with someone or
Hmm.
just understanding
That's
the
right.
the concept behind it fuels and helps how I work with people, even if I don't say, "Well, I'm going to do some Reiki for you," or "We're going
Hmm.
to, pull out such and such." I find that in the back of our psyche that it creates this amalgam,
Hmm.
of information that just
Absolutely.
on what I'm able to pull from. So I really like that approach. And like you say, it's self-beneficial. It, I may
Absolutely.
start out doing it thinking, oh, I'm going to do this so I can use it to help someone else. And then I say, oh, this is great. I'm going to use this for myself. Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
and I really believe that every one of us that steps into the role of being a healer and holding space for other people's healing journeys, it's imperative in my belief system that we have done our own work as well, because we don't want to get entangled or enmeshed in somebody else's stories. And if
mhm,
we're not familiar with what our triggers are, and if we haven't done a significant amount of our own healing work, we are going to become enmeshed in a very potentially toxic relationship with our client, or certainly a codependent relationship with our
mhm,
client. And it's important when we step forward as healers, I think, that we're able to say, I am taking the responsibility of holding this space for you. We can become friends afterwards if that's, what's meant to happen. But right now, my responsibility and my job is to hold us accountable to your healing journey. And in order to do that, I have to make sure that I'm not allowing myself to get bogged down or hooked into their story, especially if there's something about their story that's similar to mine. And if I haven't done that piece of work on mine, then I'm not going to be able to show up in full responsibility for them to be their mentor in that moment.
yeah. And on the not quite flip side, but along the same lines, I find, and I think, there is a synchronicity. Often I will get a client for hypnosis and life coaching that is something that I need to reflect on for myself. And
Yes.
like, oh, like I've got, four people in a row for with one particular thing. And I'm like, but I find while I'm working with them that I'm
Hmm.
essentially kind of clearing it out for myself because I'm telling myself what I need to hear, but I'm telling
Right.
it them, and then I'm like,
Yes.
and if I could follow my own advice, then we got that. The other
Yeah.
thing I've noticed too, again, synchronicity wise, is that I just went blank on what it was, but I just, it was, what was it? Because I was going to say it first, but then I went to the second one,
All
um,
right.
about life experiences. That
Yes.
um, that if I've been through something, right? Now I have a client who's saying, "Well, then this, and then that," and then I'm
Hmm.
like, "Yep, yep, I get you.
Hmm.
Absolutely, you are right." And now, how are
Exactly.
we going to deal with that? I said,
Yes.
because I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And here's something that worked for me. You want to try this out? It's and more
Hmm.
when we're talking about, changing your thoughts or even your interaction behaviors, especially on interpersonal relationships, sort of a thing, more
Hmm.
than say, um, you know, a treatment per se. But it's more often than not just having had any sort of what I would label, say, a negative experience that I was able to shift and
Mhm.
come out of has given me more tools without having to go to the class.
Yeah.
or, or the
Yes.
class has helped, right? And
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think at a certain point in any journey, any healer's journey, when you're
mhm,
stepping into this role, you have to stop taking the courses.
yeah.
You have to stop and we have to really integrate and assimilate everything that you've learned. And you have to be able to reflect on your own life's experiences, like you just said, to be able to have a comfort level with when it's appropriate to bring those life experiences into a shared conversation with your client in
Mhm.
order to demonstrate that, yes, you do know, you do understand, you empathize because you've been in something similar without then dumping your story on them.
Right, without me, yeah, at the end saying, okay, now how much do I owe you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sometimes I joke with them. I'm like, okay, now that you understand where I'm coming from, um, yeah, just to illustrate, that I understand this experience and here's how I shifted. I
Hmm.
leave out the dirty little details, but the idea is there. I'm like, all right, now just I used up 5 extra minutes of your time explaining that, but hopefully this was beneficial.
Yeah.
Or you always know somebody who's gone through it and how they might have handled it differently or did
Hmm.
handle it. There's I pull in real life experiences as
Exactly. Yeah.
appropriate, but
And that's the shared story aspect of it.
mhm,
Where and where as the healer we've done our work around our boundaries and we understand what our responsibility is to the client. At that point, if we've got those strong boundaries and that really clear understanding of what our responsibility is, then we can have those shared stories
mhm.
while maintaining that professional, this is me here for you, as opposed to the other
Yes,
way
exactly. And
around.
that would be always asking yourself as somebody who works with people, am I doing this for me? Am I
Hmm.
like, is it a bitch session? Part of,
Hmm.
have I turned this into, something different? Or is this, and I'll go check, let's see. Like,
Yeah.
how is this benefiting? Is this going to benefit them before I speak up? Does this make sense to what we're working on? Or does it just
Hmm.
sometimes I could say, well, wait a minute, if I say that, then that just perpetuates this victimhood, right?
Right.
So maybe that's not the story to, say about this. But yeah, and I think there's an energy, you work an energy that
Mm,
when you're actually working with someone, there is a shared energy. And the more that I can keep my energy up here,
exactly.
instead of going down into like re-experiencing past victimhoods, but rather re-experiencing and sharing overcoming, you know,
Hmm.
like, and
Hmm.
here's the better, and here's how that was actually a good thing.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's fascinating. So you also, I saw that you worked as a energy, have a certification in energy massage or energy. Now,
Yes.
physically then, so we kind of talk about reiki or that sort of thing. How would that work with somebody, and is
So
that
intu
currently working?
yes. Well, so intuitive energy massage is the trademark name of the technique that I've developed. And I've developed it and created it from many different energetic and physical modalities that I've studied. And so it's a
Mhm,
combination of energy healing, things like Reiki, white light healing, a number of Chinese and Asian and Indian traditions of energy healing, and also the physical touch and how important it is that we have physical touch.
mhm.
So it is a combination of light massage and body pulling, stretching and opening all of the chakras, because every single joint in our body has a chakra center in it, not just the seven that most people in North
Huh?
America are familiar with, but also the whole energy system, including the nervous system, the central nervous system, the lymphatic system, and the one of the other systems. Oh, the immune system is another one. Nerves, the hormonal system. So the way that the body works as a whole system, this energy healing taps into multiple layers of our physical, emotional, energetic, and spiritual
Mhm.
wellness through a series of hand positions,
Basics,
stretches, sweeping. It's a whole thing. It is done in person.
obviously, I hope.
When the well, when
Suppose
the
you
world
have to do a version of it remotely, but it definitely
yeah,
seems it would be even more beneficial having, the full experience because you could do like say the remote energy or Reiki. Um,
yes, yeah, and I do remote work as well. But it was interesting because when the world imploded 5 years ago, and everybody was pivoting to overuse the word that was overused so much, people kept asking me, "Well, can't you just do this online?" Well, I can do a version of it.
yeah.
And I do know that energy doesn't know boundaries, so it can go anywhere. But this particular technique needs to be taught in person and it needs to be experienced in person
Mm,
for the depth of what it is capable of producing for people in terms of deep healing. Because what it does is it goes beyond words
yeah.
and it allows us to enter into the body and to listen to the body's language and the way in which the body shares our pain and our joys, holds and stores those pains and joys until we are ready to experience them. And at the
Mm,
spiritual level, allows us to connect in with other lifetime experiences that we may still be holding, that we brought in from our soul back into the physical body to be healed at the physical level. So, with all of that depth, there's a conversation that we have at the beginning of the treatment and then at the conclusion of the treatment, which is to share what has come up for the practitioner in terms of the information that was given to them that they received through the process and what it was like for the client to
mhm,
be on the receiving end of it. And the whole evolution of this as a modality, it wasn't because the other kinds of healing and energy modalities I was learning weren't enough in and of themselves. But at a certain point, my experience was that they were not allowing the practitioner or the client to go deeper
mm.
into the layers of our holding on to pain and trauma
Okay,
and
yeah.
accessing joy and pleasure as well, for that matter.
A few people have recommended a book, which I have yet to get. I'm looking over there because I have a bookshelf that is so full of books.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I don't know if I should get another book, but it's called the Body Keeps the Score or something like that.
Mhm.
And they said, oh yeah, it's really good, and it's about trauma, pain, or suffering, and how it can be held in different, you know,
Mhm.
how we hold on to it physically in a way,
Mhm.
energetically, and
Mhm.
that like if somebody, for example, has low back pain, and maybe it's tied to particular traumas in an interesting way that it will has a like certain parts of the body correlate to
Mhm.
certain types of trauma, and
Yes. Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, that just I could picture how this process that you do might
Mhm.
clear something like that, where you can let the energy flow through again and release that. Is that
Absolutely.
about how that would work?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And when I say that it takes us into places where we don't have words to describe what
Mm-hmm.
our experiences have been, that's really significant because, on the one hand, our stories are really important, and the way that we tell our story gives us clues about the beliefs that we are carrying about ourselves and the people around us. But we can also get caught up in the story to the point where we don't remember how to change the relationship we have with that story. And you've got friends who do this, you have family who do this. You maybe tell a story the same way every time you tell it, which indicates that there's something about that story that you haven't processed or you haven't integrated or
Mm-hmm.
you're not willing to let go yet, right? And there's no judgment around that. That's just the way that stories go. So when we move into the body, we're moving past that story. We're also allowing ourselves to access memories from pre-verbal times in our lives when we were too young to have language to describe and understand what was happening to us. And we can take that right back into pregnancy when we were
Mm-hmm.
in the womb and we didn't have language to describe what we were experiencing, what we were receiving from our mother and the other adults around us, and what has happened to us in between lifetimes or in other lifetimes as well.
Yeah.
So we move past the limitations of the words that we speak to describe our experiences, and we move into the emotion and the feeling and the energy of those experiences. And without having to necessarily identify and re-traumatize the person by remembering, we are working with the intention that the time is now to release whatever that was being held up until that moment.
Yeah, I love that approach, especially when it's something that someone can't verbalize or
Hmm.
even explain what it is. Uh,
Hmm.
and from my side as a hypnotherapist, there are so many stories um, where of doing past life regression, where someone goes into a past life to release some sort of injury, like maybe they have something wrong with them, and the doctors can't find a reason,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so they go back to the past life where this was, where it happened, and they've
Hmm.
somehow carried it forward as a, etheric wound,
Yes.
as an energetic wound, and then they can release it in that energetic state, in that,
Hmm.
under hypnosis. Uh, I was last client, not client, but last person I just had a conversation with on my show brought up very briefly that sometimes children that remember past lives or people that have something that they have, then they can identify who the past life was, who the person
Hmm.
was, etc. Often they found that they have the same birthmark, or
Yes,
there's been a mark on their body where an injury had occurred on
that's right.
from the past life. So it's just, isn't it just fascinating how people think, oh, this is it, that's all there is, but your energy, your spirit can carry something energetically over and then back into physicality in
Yes.
in this body.
Yeah.
And so what you do, for example, is so interesting and dynamic to
Hmm.
physically, with this method we were just talking about, go to the body, but at the same time affecting the energy and even something, separate in space and time that is
Yes.
still here. So
Yes.
really, really, you know,
And the word that you just used, dynamic, that's so perfect to describe all of it. This is dynamic healing. I'm going
mm-hmm,
to start to use that as a way to describe what it is that happens in these healing sessions. And it's not so much what I do, it's how I do it, and then how those people who are energetically, vibrationally attracted to the methods that I use or the approaches that I have
mm-hmm,
are then the ones who find me
right.
and experience that dynamic healing, where they've often been to multiple healers, multiple mainstream people. They've looked everywhere, they've done everything. They are desperate, they're at the end of their rope, and that's when they find me
Mm-hmm.
or people like me. And I've always said, wouldn't it be wonderful if
The other way around.
it was the other way around?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if it were the other way around? And if the idea of dynamic holistic healing is the first place people go.
And in some cultures it is.
Some cultures it is.
And all, more in the cultures in days gone by, it was.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I get the same thing with hypnosis. People say, I've tried everything. I guess I might as well try hypnosis. And
Right.
I think, well, you could have started with, because there's no medication, like same with you. You're
Yeah.
not medicating, you're not spending a bunch of money,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
uh so not invasive, and no side effects other than good stuff, hopefully, right?
Yep, that's right.
And some clearing and some good stuff. So uh,
Yeah.
part of the reason I do this podcast and show is with people like you, is to
Hmm.
hopefully people will come across this and say, oh, yeah, I've never thought about, going to someone for energy work or Reiki or hypnosis, and why not, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the why not is the biggest piece of that. What have you got to lose at this point?
Or even if it's so minor, little tweaks.
Mhm.
It's like, why not? It's almost, people will go get a massage or go get a manicure
Yes.
to maintain how they feel or how they look. So
Hmm.
spiritually and mentally, why not go get a clearing or a energy massage or
Mm.
hypnosis to
Yeah.
just kind of say, you know, what can I do to just maintain a higher level
Mhm.
of wellness energetically as well and spiritually?
Yeah, well, it's a form of hygiene, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
energetic hygiene, it's
Mhm.
emotional hygiene, it's spiritual hygiene. And I think if we can posit it like that, if we can reframe it into that idea where people
Mhm.
realize that, okay, so you've been, I don't know, mucking around all day and you've touched a whole lot of things and you've dug in the dirt and whatever, and it's time to wash your hands just to clear the mud off your hands. Well, what about doing something similarly on an energetic level at the end of the
Mhm.
day and just do a little sweeping like I'm doing right now,
Yeah.
You're just gonna fluff up your aura and create the intention that anything that got stuck in your aura that isn't yours, isn't for your
Yeah.
highest good, you release it and you do a quick little bit of energetic hygiene. You make it a habit.
And you think of like the people you're around all day. As can you imagine, say people that are in a business where like a cashier at a grocery store,
Hmm.
all the people have touched everything. You touch it, you're exchanging all of that energy from
Hmm.
everybody all day long.
Yeah.
And that there's a, even if it were to just think, even if you took a few moments and just said,
Yeah.
you know, I am just clearing this all out, you know,
Hmm.
just say even if you just tell yourself, I'm lifting up my energy, I'm just letting that all go.
Yeah.
You actually can feel a difference,
Absolutely, you
even
can.
as I'm mimicking it, it's like, oh,
Hmm.
let that let that go. There's a funny Instagram. I can't say what it said, but it was like guided meditation.
Hmm.
And usually, we hear these like, now just taking a breath in, taking a breath out, letting that day go, letting it all just melt away. Normally, it might sound something like that.
Yeah.
Was this, it was a kind of a play on that. And the title of it was, and the words were, let that blank go, you know?
I
And
know that one.
yeah, and he's just
That's
like,
so
just let
funny.
that. And it's so
Yeah.
funny, but it's also so true. And so if anybody wants to find it, it's probably on YouTube. It's let that blank, starts with an S, go.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny that you bring that up. I love
It's
that.
so good. I haven't seen it for a while, but I think every now and then people should just go listen to that, because sometimes it's hard. I shouldn't say it's hard, but can be a challenge to
Hmm.
let stuff go
Hmm.
if you're really wound up.
Yes.
And as an alternative to that full step into allowing yourself to go into meditation and relaxation, this will just make you laugh.
Yeah,
Okay. And laughing is a great energy clearing exercise,
absolutely.
right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And also let's be totally honest and fair. In the spiritual world, the spiritual realm, if you will, people can take themselves very seriously.
Too much.
Very,
Yes.
very seriously.
Yeah.
To the point where you're missing the point. So when you've got something like that that brings you back down and gets you grounded again, and you realize that being a spiritual person, being connected to spiritual thinking and spiritual practices doesn't mean you shouldn't also be embracing every aspect of the human experience. You're here to be a human being. So you can have a potty mouth. You can say something in jest or even in a bit of anger. You can access the full spectrum of human emotion.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, as long as you're doing that from a place of self-responsibility and self-regulating, and no one else is getting splattered with it, then you're good. You're good. But you did come here to do all of it over multiple lifetimes, I believe. And so, meditate the bleep out of it or whatever. Yeah. Let's recognize and acknowledge that we are here to have a grounded experience as well as maintain the balance and connection with energy, emotion, and spiritual at the same time.
And they say that there's this graph of the different emotions and the frequency or vibration that is
Hmm.
associated with each of them, and the highest vibration is love or joy. It's way up there. And if you have joy, uh, there's a lightness, there's a
Hmm.
more energy and movement that helps everything just flow. So
Yes.
it is even spiritual to be joyful, right?
Yes,
It,
yes, 100%. And I'm so glad that you're saying that, Desiree, because I agree with you. I've always believed this, that we actually evolve faster and learn better when we are in a state of grace and a state of happiness and a state of bliss. And this idea that we have that we've been taught from religious strictures and religious backgrounds, especially the strong Protestant work ethic, and not to be demeaning that, but to say the idea that you have to suffer to grow. I am going to say, no, I don't agree with that. Because what happens when you're suffering, what happens when you're in pain and you're in trauma is that you're like this. You're in survival mode. And for anyone who's listening, I've just put my hands up against my eyes and like a little focusing on the immediate thing that's right in front of you. And when you're in survival mode, you're not in creative mode. And you can only learn from your experiences in that instance once you've moved through the experience and you can look back on it with a new insight and wisdom and say, oh, okay, now I understand why I had to go through that. But in that moment, you're actually not growing and evolving. You're just in it.
exactly. And accepting, instead of fighting sometimes. Like if you've got something you can't fight against, if it's
Hmm.
you know that you can address, you can do what you can do. But
Hmm.
having that emotional uh, tension and anger and fight against something that is out of your control
Yeah.
uh, just stagnates everything. When you're talking about flow of energy, it just stagnates everything.
Hmm.
Where if you say, okay, what can I do? All right, this, and this, nothing else. All right, I'm going to now release trying. I'm going to
Yes.
release that effort and say, I've done what I can do. I'm going to allow things to just flow forth and
Hmm.
know that this is just how it is, whether I understand it or not.
Yes.
It can help relieve that suffering to a degree. Um, Saying, yeah, I don't like this, but it is what it is. And so, okay, whatever,
Hmm.
I'm going to turn on, cartoons or, you know,
Whatever
I'm
the
going to go
guidance is,
I'm
right?
going to go listen to that tape about letting that stuff go. That
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
it's like I'm not okay. This is not working. That's not working. Time
Hmm.
to just
Yes.
refocus, and that's I think when you do release, then things do seem to start to flow. And
Yes.
for lack of a better way of putting it, sometimes handing it over to that higher power, whatever you call that for yourself,
Hmm.
um, helps to say, well, it's out of my hands.
Yeah.
I've
Yes,
addressed it and I will
that's
readdress it
right.
as I can.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right. And there's a magic of not fighting
Hmm.
something, hanging on to that tension, that tightness. Same thing for anger or resentment. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
it's does
Absolutely.
that too. It just festers. And
Exactly. I was with a client yesterday and she kept repeating in the session, I just keep trying. I just keep trying. And I finally said to her, stop.
yeah.
Stop. Listen to what you're saying. You're
Mhm.
caught in a loop. What if you stopped trying so hard? What if you stopped trying
Yeah.
altogether? And she sat there for a moment and I was watching it, like her whole face just fell. And then she burst into tears. And she said, oh my God, I never thought of that.
I don't have to try this hard. I don't have to do this at all.
You don't
Yeah.
have to try. What if you just let it be
Hmm.
and you acknowledged where you were at and you acknowledged what it felt like? and you weren't attached to any kind of specific outcome or any need to prove to anyone, including yourself, that you're doing a good job of trying really hard, even though nothing's happening and you're just pedaling like mad and you're not getting anywhere. And I mean, wow, to watch the transformation on her face, her whole demeanor, her whole energy field, everything softened in that moment.
It's like,
It was such
wow,
a
thanks
relief.
for that. What a relief. I
Yeah.
needed that, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
and my last guest, this talk about synchronicity. My last guest is working in the quantum physics area of research and
Mm.
happiness.
Oh,
And
fascinating.
yeah, it was very interesting. But also, he was talking about the attachment to the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
how the attachment to the outcome can block the desired intention
Yes.
because it just creates this block. And I always, I'll tell my clients, trying gets in the way. When you're
Yes.
trying, then you're not flowing. And there's a difference between trying and allowing.
Yes.
Just allow your
Absolutely.
allow things to happen
Mm-hmm.
for you. Allow
Mm-hmm.
things to just move in such a wonderful direction. Instead of
Yes.
trying, it's like if there's a boulder, rolling down the hill, you go stand in front of it and hold on to it, or you can step aside, let the boulder roll, and then go on your path.
That's exactly. Yes.
Otherwise, you're stuck holding that boulder for eternity, and you're never going to, start
Mm-hmm.
moving along. Trying is such a blockage
Yeah.
to manifesting or pot, just the goal. And like
Mm-hmm.
they say, I heard this someplace else. I'd like to take credit for it, but I don't know. I can't. But as long as you're trying, you're not doing,
Right.
because there's a difference between trying, even in your brain. As long as you're
Mm-hmm.
trying, then nothing's happening. You're
Mm-hmm.
still trying. So even if somebody said to themselves, instead of saying, I'm trying to, they say, I am doing,
Mm-hmm.
I am taking steps.
Mm-hmm.
I am changing what I want to change.
Yes.
Like if it was, say, overeating, I'm trying to stop eating what I shouldn't eat. I'm trying to lose weight. Do you know how
Mm-hmm.
many people don't we all know that someone's been trying to lose weight for 20 years?
Yeah.
And whenever I talk to them, I'm trying to lose weight. And, you know, instead of saying to themselves and anyone around them,
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm losing weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm changing my diet. I'm
Yes.
changing my habits,
Yes.
and I'm feeling better and better. I'm getting healthier.
Yeah.
And even if they don't see it yet, that just gets them over, that lets the rock go down the hill, and then they can start to make progress.
Absolutely. And if you look at the things like that, the analogy of the rock coming down the hill, and there's that old Greek story about that, that his punishment is to keep pushing the rock up the hill, and then the rock falls down, and he's supposed to go down and push it up again. Well, what if you just let the rock go where it wants to go? Because it's going to take the path of least resistance, no matter what, to get to
Mm-hmm.
its final destination. We can learn from that analogy. What if we are not so concerned about changing our circumstances as we are about changing ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and our response to our circumstances.
Yep,
And what I tell
exactly.
my clients is, you don't have control over anything except your response and reaction to the circumstances that you are a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever those circumstances came from, you called them to you, you chose to participate in them, all of that. The only place where you can change anything effectively is in how you choose to respond. And so rather
That,
than reacting, you learn to respond. And it's a learning process because,
mm-hmm.
of course, we're going to react. There are things that are going to, a bee flies in my face. I'm going to react and probably swat the bee, even though I love bees. I'm sure the bee wasn't coming after me, but that's a reaction. But even that, if I were in a state of real, very calm centeredness and the bee flew into my face, I could just look at the bee. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
look at the bee. And the bee would go on its merry way because the bee doesn't really care about me, right? Most people in your sphere
Mm-hmm.
actually don't really. care about you. And I want to be really clear when I say this. It's not that they don't love you, they do love you. They have great feelings towards you. But just like you, their focus is most of the time on themselves and how they're figuring out their day and their issues and their problems.
Hmm.
So they can either come at you and you can swat them, or you can just let them come at you and you can just watch them. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, there they go. Right? Because
Yeah.
they don't actually care about you in the way that you
Yeah,
think they
they're
do.
just not paying that much attention to you. The same thing when someone's worried about their hair or what they're wearing overly, or what impression they're making with, oh no, did I say that wrong? Like, was it my fault? Or did I do, it's like, you know what? Most people don't know. And I say this to myself when I get a little, worried about like, oh, I don't know, is that the right thing? I'm like, Desiree, nobody's looking at you as much as you are.
That's
Okay.
right.
Nobody cares what your hair looks like. Nobody is, as long as
Yeah.
you, are within a certain parameter of normal, right? No, nobody is criticizing you like you're criticizing you. Uh,
Yourself,
and
exactly.
and so it's true. It's like there's a relief, like you say, when someone says, "Oh, wow, that's a relief." It's like, yeah, you know what? That's a relief to
Mhm.
realize we're so busy. We all are thinking about
Yes.
ourselves.
Yep.
Uh, and sometimes you have to get, if you want someone to think about you, you're like, hey, excuse me,
Mhm.
look over here for a minute, because I really need you to collaborate with me on thinking about me.
Yes,
and
exactly.
actually, I just had this little aha. If it weren't for the fact that other people are not paying that much attention to you, and that
Mhm.
would include your family, your friends, and all that, you and I would be out of business,
Mhm.
because we serve a purpose.
Mhm.
Because with what we do is we put our focus on our client,
Right.
and we collaborate with them,
Mhm.
where often that is a very difficult thing to come by, when from family and friends who all have their judgments, their idea of what you should be doing. They're
Yeah.
coming from their own world. And of course I do too, but I, like we talked about the boundary, I put
Mhm.
that boundary down, and I think, what is from this person's worldview, this person's world, how they are, what their values are, how
Yeah.
can help them best align and find happiness in their life,
Mhm.
not the way
Mhm.
I think they should be. But
Right.
so that's yeah.
Well, I've often said to my students, look, if every single person on the planet woke up tomorrow healed and we were no longer needed, hallelujah. What else would we do? Think about the next thing you would want to do. You want going to go to space? Are you going to dig a
Well,
garden? There'll be lots of other ways for you to serve in the world.
yes, there's
But
all sorts of
unfortunately,
fun
that's
stuff
not
out
what's going
there.
to happen. So we're going to be around for a while longer, I think.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy what I do, as you do. I'm sure, that it's just
Mhm.
so gratifying when, like, you explain that story, that,
Mhm.
you can say to a client something that for them is just so profound and
Mhm.
useful, that
Yeah.
you know, me, anybody, we get stuck in our, expectations, tunnel vision, past experiences, to where
Mhm.
sometimes we don't say, oh, I never thought about that.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a Tony Robbins story where he had one of these big audiences, and somebody stood up and was like, I got all these responsibilities. I just can't let go of this and this and this and this. And I've all my,
Mhm.
and she was, looked like she felt. And he gave her this visual. He
Yeah.
says, yeah, it sounds like you're carrying a lot. She's like,
Yeah.
I am. And, and so he went through an exercise with her about how much of those things that you are burdened with are actually yours, or that you
Right.
can do anything about. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And then he says, so imagine each of those things as a rock and a bag that you're carrying.
Mhm.
And he says, um, okay, so the things that you can't control, that you can't really do anything about, what if you just, you're carrying all this weight. What if you just drop the bag?
Right.
And she goes, what? Drop the bag.
Drop the bag.
And so there, the story was, as he tells it, that she just, like your client did, just said, oh, and like she stood up straighter.
Yep.
And it was like, wow, what if I just don't have to do that? And he had an
Hmm.
interview with her like a year later,
Yeah.
and she looked, because we saw the original,
Right.
and her face was filled out. She was healthy. She was smiling,
Hmm.
a whole different person.
Yeah.
Um, just fascinating. Anyway, so I just, love the stories of, how the work you do, uh,
Hmm.
the type of thing that, you know, the just holding up a mirror that helps a person reflect and say, well, yeah, I'm not liking this. So how am I
Right.
going to change this? And you're right, I don't need to be like this.
Hmm.
So
Yes,
tell,
absolutely.
I want to segue here to your book. It's over your shoulder there. If you want to
Yes.
show everybody. So you are the author of the card deck and the book. So how
Yeah.
did that, what was the, fruition that, how that came to be?
Well, I'd worked with Oracle cards for decades and decades. I found them when I was a teenager, and I loved the energy and the imagery, and I loved all the different kinds of messages. Different from tarot, which is a very specific system of divination and
Mhm,
messages and meditation. Oracle cards are very much more organic. There's
mhm,
hundreds of thousands of decks of Oracle cards in the world now compared to when I was a teenager, and each of them is different. So I'd been working with them for a long time personally for guidance and wisdom and meditation. And then when I became an intuitive counselor and a psychic healer, I was using them with my clients, learning how to channel the messages that would come through or the inspiration and intuition that
mhm,
would come through. As I was going through a challenging time in my own life, coming out of a 23-year marriage with two little kids, two little daughters,
oh yeah.
and figuring out how to do this with as much integrity and honesty as I could, and to really be in my sovereignty, I said in a exasperated moment to the universe, just show me a sign, give me a sign, anything, just show me a symbol, a sign that when I see it, I'll know that I'm following my heart above all other voices
Mm.
and that I'm doing this from my heart. And the very next day, I started seeing hearts everywhere.
That's
Rocks
great.
on the beaches, clouds in the skies, they were everywhere. And I took that as my sign and as my symbol. And I started to photograph these hearts as I found them in nature. And I just kept them to myself. They were on my phone, and I would look at them for inspiration and to remind myself that I am trying to do this with as much integrity as I can and from my heart in as many ways as possible. And once I was able to move away from that relationship and move into my own home and set up rooms for my daughters and all of that, and set out my shingle full time as a healer because now I needed to support us. I started, it was a client who said, those hearts, those photos you showed me of your hearts, you should really put those out on Facebook because other people could really benefit from seeing them. I thought, oh, okay, well, sure. And I never had a Facebook account before this. Didn't really know much about it. Well, actually, there's a Facebook story that goes along with the story of these hearts, but you have to read the book to find out what that's all
Oh,
about. Uh,
okay.
anyway, so I started putting these hearts out and sharing them and little messages around them, and the response was overwhelming. So
Mhm,
many people were sharing them, and oh my gosh, and now I'm seeing hearts everywhere, and they were sharing their hearts with me. And I got
awesome.
this idea in my head. It popped into my head of, well, these would make a really great deck of oracle cards. And and what if I did that? What if I made oracle cards? It can't be that hard to make oracle cards. And then all the doubts and everything else that came in,
Oh
all that.
yes. Mhm,
Who are you to do this? And I had all those conversations with myself. And finally, I heard from a voice other than my own, who are you not to do this?
huh,
And I thought,
right.
right, okay, if I am
Mhm,
saying that I'm of service and I am saying I am a healer and this is a thing that could help other people heal, then I better get my act together and start creating this. And so that's eventually what I ended up doing is choosing various images, sitting with the images, remembering where I was at in the process when I found that heart, letting the messages come through in the ways in which they could be helpful to other people, and weaving my own story and my own experiences of a broken heart and then healing that heart
mhm,
into each of these oracle cards. And from there, I created the guidebook where I share my story. And I did that intentionally because with all the years that I'd worked with oracle cards and every deck I'd ever worked with, I had never yet seen an author share their reason why they chose this particular theme or this particular messaging or anything about themselves. And I really felt that as a holder of other people's stories, if I was going to walk my talk, then I was going to need to share parts of my story as well. Not only to help that, like the collaboration of storytelling, but also as part of my own healing process. And part of that was and this was the most terrifying part, was to
Yeah.
say, right, I'm going to share very honestly and very deeply and sincerely what this process was like for me and what the emotional part of it was like for me. And then I'm going to put it out into the world. And I'm going to do the same thing through the cards as well. I'm going to put these out into the world, and everybody else can make up their mind about my decisions, my choices, my process, and my path. And it won't have anything to do with me, and it won't be any of my business.
Yeah, right. What other people think of you is none of your business.
Is
That's
none of your business. And so that's part of why that story is in the guidebook. And then along with that, in the guidebook, I teach you how to work with oracle cards, different ways that you can work with them, different kinds of pulls, different sorts of ways that you can, place the cards and what the meanings of those cards could
nice.
be.
I like that it has the color images with it there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that was really important. And then each
Mhm.
has its own page where I go into deeper messaging from what is on the back of each of the cards. So this card, for example, this is a heart-shaped cloud,
Oh, sweet.
and it's called Heart Thoughts. And it says, you have no control over love. It has its own life force coming and going as it pleases. Let yourself float above your preconceived ideas of what love should be and simply be in love.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank
I like the idea when you say it has a life of its own, coming and going, reference there, because clouds also, shift and change shape, and
That's right.
they're
Yeah,
they've got their own thing, right? They don't
that
just
they
stay
absolutely
in one
do.
shape.
And
So,
that's more of the message when you go into the book and find that page, which I was hoping I could find easily. Oh, here it is. So when we go into here, that's part of what I talk about is the symbolism. You can no more put love in a box, tie a ribbon around it, and give it to someone else than you can hold on to the shape of a cloud.
ah,
And that's that perfect
yeah,
symbology of it, right?
yeah.
About what we can and cannot control. And then
Hmm.
in the box set, you also get the journal for those who like
Oh,
to journal. And this is all
nice.
full color, and this is more of my photography with quotes
That's
from the
nice.
book. So this is a little heart rock in a river.
Hmm.
Yeah. So each page has a different heart shape on it, and then a space where you can write whatever, your grocery lists, your card
Yeah,
pulls, your ideas, with all of that. And then they come in a little box, the cards, there's 42 of them in their own special box, and you get a pen and you get a bookmark.
yeah, you're all set as soon as it comes.
Exactly. You've got everything you need to start diving into your heart's health, your heart's well-being, your heart's, I don't know, your heart's healing at that point. So it's a wonderful healing toolbox, really, is how I've put it all together.
I love it. I love it. And I'll tell the audience, I was the lucky recipient of having you do that for me. And
That's right. Yes.
and so I want to share with everybody that, how my experience was different than, say, another way of, someone else might be doing oracle cards or tarot or something, that you did include your intuition. And
Hmm.
um, and so, like, she would pull a card while she's talking to me, and kind of reflect on it and say, well, what does might be going on with you in this area, and how about this card? When, say, if it was a cloud of, um, how is how are things moving for you, flowing or staying stagnant, say, in your emotional life with others? Or, that's
Hmm.
I'd say that in
Hmm.
particular, but it would be something along the lines of that, where you would call on your own intuitive hit,
Right.
related to the card that you had pulled for me. And so it was much more of, it wasn't like this card, this card, this card, this card,
Hmm.
and you're going to win the lottery. Go.
Well, I
Like
wish I could have
that
told you
be,
you were going to win the lottery. That would have been great.
I would have liked that, and
Yeah,
especially if
me
you
too.
come back and say you're so accurate. Uh, but it was more of a, I would say, intuitive therapeutic
Yes.
conversation
Yeah.
about you and using the cards as a vehicle
Like a
to that.
touchstone.
Hmm.
Like a touchstone. Right. So
So,
as we're talking, so I was doing that same process. I was just
ah,
playing with the cards, and then a card falls into my hand, or I just feel like, oh, this is the place to stop. And this
uh-huh,
is love letters, where I was walking down the beach and somebody had written the word love in the sand.
yeah.
And this one says, if your question is, will I find love? The answer is, love will find you. Right? It's what we were talking about earlier about the trying. And so if anyone
Yeah.
listening to this or watching us had a aha moment around, I don't have to try so hard, and you're
Hmm.
trying to find love, and we're suggesting to you, we're saying, hey, what if you stop trying?
And just allow it to
Love
go
finds
forth,
you,
right?
right? So the harder you try, the harder you push love away. Be open to your own knowing, saying yes to love's possibilities. I'm open to being loved. And this is also an opportunity then, and if we were in a client session, I would start going down the path of, what is it about yourself that you don't love?
Mhm.
Because it's not about other people not loving you, it's about you not letting them love you.
And what are you blocking? What are you afraid of? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And let's cut through the BS and let's go straight to the
Hmm.
source of what's happening for you. Because if you truly, truly, deeply want love and you are ready to be loved, then it will be there. Because that's the energy you're going to be putting out. That's the vibration you're going to be putting out. But if there's somewhere in there where there's a little wounded child within yourself who doesn't believe
Hmm.
that they are lovable, let's go find that child and let's do the work with that child aspect of yourself to clear that belief out, because it's not your belief. Somebody gave it to you along the way and you made it real for yourself. And so that's how we can work with these cards. We take the card, we work with the messaging, and then the intuitive hits come in of, right, what's really going on here?
And asking, so if
Beautiful.
somebody had this deck and they, wanted to pull a card for themselves without any particular question,
Mm-hmm.
just allowing the energies to tell you what, it's going to give you the card that you need to see,
Yes.
and pull that out and ask yourself these questions about, well, why would
Mm.
I pull this? And, what's this telling me? And that the whole point on a more practical level, for using, something like this is, I'll have clients that, are looking to meet someone on the dating site,
Mm-hmm.
trying, literally saying, I'm trying. Um, I just can't find anybody I like. And I'm always like, well, how about maybe take a break from the dating site and
Yeah.
just do something you like. Go to some event that you enjoy. Start
Mm-hmm.
going, join a book club with books that you want to read, or just put yourself in a place where you're already enjoying yourself, right?
Yeah,
And just don't go there thinking you're going to meet somebody. Go there thinking you're going to enjoy yourself.
that's right.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's just see what happens.
Let's see what happens. You'll, you know, instead of being miserable because it's not happening yet, find
Mm-hmm.
find joy, and
Mm-hmm.
then see what happens. Right.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. So if someone wanted your deck and books, would they
Mm-hmm.
order it from your website, or is it on Amazon, or how would you get this?
Yeah, so definitely you can order it through the website, and when you do that, I'm the one who sends it to you,
Oh,
and I
nice. Even
love
extra
to
happy
personalize
touch,
it. Yeah,
right?
personal touch. I can I don't know, bless it, infuse it with all kinds of healing energy. I
Mhm.
can I can put your name in it and bless you on your heart's journey and all of those wonderful things. I am on Amazon, but it's interesting. I just went to my author page the other day because I've got another new book that just came out that I'm a
We'll
collaborating
get to
author on.
that in a minute. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and this is actually where
Oh,
you
yes, that's why
went the session with me, the Expressive Arts, the Ultimate Creative Guide to Transforming Stress. And there's
Mhm.
22 of us healers in this
Yeah.
book, and we all contributed to it. So it's
And
wonderful.
I was luckily one of the readers to
Yeah,
give it its early endorsement.
that's right.
So you can find my 2 cents worth saying absolutely wonderful book. So
Excellent.
I'll
Thank
say
you for that.
before I ask you more where to get these, um, the um, the book you were just holding up. Will you tell us the title again?
Yes, this is Expressive Arts, the ultimate creative guide to transforming stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a collaborative book with so much really interesting stuff in there, including Megan's work and each, a chapter from her and some tools.
Yeah.
And it's just such a smorgasbord, the
hmm
buffet of fun and interesting ways to be creative.
Yeah.
And so if
Yeah.
you're looking for something that you can just read a chapter at a time and do something different here and there and see,
hmm
just fun different ways to find creativity in your life, I highly recommend that book.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine is chapter 18, which is
Okay.
the heart's journey to healing and wholeness from chronic pain to self-love. And it's a bit
Uh,
more deeper dive into a snippet of that deep dive into my personal story about
mhm,
what transformed me, what put me onto that path of it's time for me to step into the role that I came here to play when I came back into this lifetime. So this is
mhm.
available on my website as well, or you can go to Amazon. You can go to my Amazon page. But what I was going to say is that when I went to Amazon the other day to look for the Heart's Journey, it's available as a Kindle, which I don't highly recommend because this is an interactive tool,
Yeah,
the
so
Heart's
you can't
Journey.
get the physical cards or book.
That's right. No, you can't get the physical cards that way. So I do have to speak to the publisher to find out why the box set
Mhm.
isn't there. So that is all to say, come to my website or in the media kit that, oh no, I haven't sent that to you yet. Okay,
No,
I have an evergreen coupon.
and yes, and oh, that's nice. And when you send me that,
Yes,
everyone, that will be in the details. An evergreen coupon you're going to provide for us, you're saying,
20% off
and
the
her
purchase of
website
the book.
and
Yeah,
everything to reach Megan.
yes. So
Perfect.
all of that will be available to you. Yeah.
And if you want to just say your website in case somebody
Oh, yes, of course.
knows, yeah, just
Megan
tell us.
Edge, meganedge.ca. So I am in Canada. I'm on the west coast of Canada in British Columbia, for anyone who's familiar with that part of the world. I live right near the ocean and the mountains, and I love it. I'm so grateful to be where I am. So meganedge.ca. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Megan Edge. You can find me under Megan Edge Healing on YouTube. You can find me on Etsy under Megan Edge Botanicals, Facebook, Instagram, and I think that, oh no, and Learn It Live. Learn It Live is my teaching platform right now, my
That's
online
right, with
teaching
the Wellness Universe,
and the Wellness Universe. You can
which
find
we
me there.
both belong to, and that's how we ended up connecting. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So
So
those are all
perfect.
the
And it's
places.
Megan with not without an H, correct?
Megan without an H. It is the simple, straightforward spelling Megan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so, as I think we're about ready to wrap up, but is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before we go? Any last advice, words, or information?
Um, what I always want people to know, I want them to remember at a cellular level is how amazing they are, how incredible it is to be a human being, how much courage it takes to be human, to move through your life, and how you're not doing this alone. And if you're feeling lonely, there is so much there's so much connection available to you if you're open to allowing it in. And it's interesting because as we were working with the cards, that heart thought card came back again into my hand.
Oh,
And I thought that was so interesting because as we were talking about it, it is this idea that just simply be in love. Just let yourself be love
mhm.
and see what happens when you allow that, because that will create an energy of attraction.
Yes, it does. Honest, if you're vibrating and sending out, you know, good feelings and good energy, it's going to, what's the word for it when two things match when they entrain?
Synergetic or entrained,
Yes,
yeah.
entrainment.
Synergy.
It's going to really attract, the same sort of thing. It's sort of like walking down the street. If you've got a scowl on your face, you're not going to get very many smiles, right?
So true.
So
So true.
if you're feeling good and you're smiling, you're going to find people will smile back at you. And the ones who don't, what they think of you is none of your business. Let them go.
That's right.
But yeah, I love that thought, Megan.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Desiree, also for the space that you hold for these conversations.
Well, I enjoy it. I really
Yeah.
do.
It's
So thank
important.
you, Megan. And I look forward to connecting with you again. And thanks
Me
for
too.
being here.